Real-Time 1960s presents Evening Report, a complete roundup of today's news with Joe Rubenstein.
Good evening. In Los Angeles, rioting brings death and destruction. In Vietnam, U.S. Marines score a victory. The Beatles hit Minneapolis, Juan Marichal loses control, and Jim Maloney achieves baseball immortality. Those are the headlines. The details after this message.
Don't fight the feeling for an almond joy bar. Life's more appealing with an almond joy bar. Real milk chocolate sauce, that almond tender coconut, two beautiful almond joys for you.
And when you get the urge for something really crunchy,
don't fight it, surrender to a beautiful almond cluster. Crunchy, crackly, chocolatey almond clusters, nice and nutty.
indescribably delicious.
On the CBS TV program Face the Nation today, Los Angeles Mayor Sam Yorty, speaking of the rioting that swept through the Negro section of South Los Angeles last week, said civil rights leaders making quote-unquote unfounded claims of police brutality were inflaming hostility between the races. Over 6 days of rioting, 34 people were killed, more than 1,000 injured, nearly 4,000 arrested, and property damage exceeded $40 million, making it the most destructive riot of its kind in this nation's history. The violence began on the evening of Wednesday, August 11th, when Marquette Fry, a Negro, was stopped for reckless driving. A scuffle during his arrest, along with rumors of brutality, brought crowds into the streets. Rocks and concrete were thrown at police, and the violence continued to escalate until 2 days later, National Guardsmen entered the city. With arson and sniper attacks a particular menace, LA Police Chief William Parker likened the situation to guerrilla warfare. A National Guard spokesman echoed that view, stating, quote, "They've got weapons and ammo. It's like Vietnam," unquote. 3 days after the riots began, President Johnson called the situation tragic and shocking, adding, quote, "A rioter with a Molotov cocktail in his hands is not fighting for civil rights any more than a Klansman with a sheet on his back and a mask on his face," unquote. In a TV interview the same day, Chief Parker attacked, quote, "demagogic pseudo-leaders of the Negro community who can't lead at all," unquote. The 63-year-old police chief added, quote, "All these attempts to fasten upon the police the blame for the crime committed by the Negro is a vicious canard. There is a very large criminal element in the riot area, but we don't talk about it because it's not nice," unquote. He said Negro leaders in LA were trying to, quote, "relieve the Negro people of any responsibility," unquote, in the rioting, adding that these same leaders had asked that Negro crime statistics not be publicized. Told of complaints that no Negro policemen had been sent into the riot area in the early stages, Parker said the LAPD did not concentrate Negro officers in any specific division of the force, adding that Negro policemen who eventually were brought into the riot area were treated worse than their white colleagues. Responding to charges that he harbored anti-Negro attitudes, Parker said, quote, "I am not a man who engages in race hatred," unquote. 3 days later, Dr. Martin Luther King arrived in Los Angeles and expressed his views at a press conference.
The criminal responses which led to the tragic outbreaks of violence in Los Angeles are environmental and not racial. The economic deprivation, social isolation, inadequate housing, and general despair of thousands of Negroes teeming in northern and western ghettos are the ready seeds which give birth to tragic expressions of violence.
In a clear reference to Chief Parker, Dr. King criticized, quote-unquote, public officials who had made statements criticizing local civil rights leaders.
I think it is very unfortunate that statements have been made by public officials to give the impression that the riot developed because local leaders did not do their job. I think we have to see that these riots grew out of many things, particularly the explosion of accumulated frustration that have been developing across the years as a result of the long night of poverty and economic insecurity. I think Los Angeles is fortunate to have very able leadership in the Negro community, and no Negro leader at the moment when these explosions had become so great could have appealed to reason, because a riot does not listen, a mob does not listen to reason.
As the week progressed, the antipathy between Dr. King and Chief Parker flared into the open, with Dr. King telling a press conference that most Negroes in the city had expressed negative feelings toward Parker and felt he should resign or be removed.
I gained the feeling and I gained the knowledge that there is a strong feeling within the Negro community that Chief Parker does not understand the problems that Negroes are facing at this time, and that he is insensitive to the social situation and the demands that must be met if there is to be peace and tranquility in the Los Angeles community.
Responding to this statement, Parker, referring to himself in the third person, said he would remain as chief, a post he has held since 1950.
The messages I have received, in writing and otherwise, would indicate that the vast majority of the Los Angeles community do not agree with Dr. King as far as the future of Chief Parker is concerned. Therefore, as much as I regretted appearing to be a bad host, I couldn't accommodate him on this occasion. Thank you very much.
This weekend, U.S. Marines emerged from their first major battle with the Viet Cong bloodied, victorious, and newly impressed by the enemy. Said Brigadier General Frederick Karch, quote, "I thought that once they ran up against our first team, they wouldn't stand and fight. But they did. I made a miscalculation," unquote. The two-day fight in the hills of Phuc Tien pitted 3 Marine battalions against entrenched communist regulars. 23-year-old First Lieutenant Chris Cooney of Erie, Pennsylvania said, quote, "I always thought the Viet Cong were a kind of scraggly bunch. They sure surprised me. Their mortar fire was extremely accurate, and I've never seen anyone better camouflaged," unquote. 21-year-old Corporal Edward Vaughn of Beaumont, Texas, who rose under fire with his machine gun, killing a Viet Cong mortar team and 7 reinforcements, recalled, quote, "I could see smoke coming from the bushes about 100 yards away every time they fired the mortar. I got off 3 good bursts of about 50 rounds each, and the mortar stopped firing. Then I saw 7 of them running toward it, so I got them too," unquote. Asked why he stood up under heavy fire, the young corporal said, quote, "From the way things were, it looked like my time was pretty near. It was either stand up and get shot, or stay on the ground and get shot anyway," unquote. I'll have more news for you after this message.
Had any really good days lately? Like when the sun shines brighter, and people seem friendlier, and work goes faster? Days like that? Well, the really good days start out good with new Carnation Instant Breakfast. They start out good because new Carnation Instant Breakfast makes milk a balanced meal. With as much protein as 2 fresh eggs, as much mineral nourishment as 2 strips of crisp bacon, more energy than 2 slices of buttered toast, plus vitamin C, the orange juice vitamin. Instant breakfast tastes good too, really good. So remember, the really good days start out good with new Carnation Instant Breakfast. Really good.
Here again, Joe Rubenstein.
At Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota last night, a crowd of 30,000 Beatles fans, mostly screaming teenagers, roared for their heroes. At 8:30, after a few opening acts, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and John Lennon walked from the Twins' dugout to a stage over second base, as a helicopter overhead flashed "Welcome Beatles." The British group played about 12 songs, but not much was audible over the shrieking. On the scene was Captain Douglas Sherry of the Ramsey County Deputy Sheriff's Reserve, who said, quote, "I have never seen a mob like this in my life. I thought Frank Sinatra was bad, but the mob for this thing has him all beat to pieces," unquote. In a press conference today, Minneapolis Police Inspector Donald Dwyer recalled the process of getting the Beatles from the concert to their motel rooms.
We had no trouble with 3 of the Beatles because they had, upon returning from the show at Met Stadium, had gone to the hotel and had gone right to bed. We did have trouble, however, with the report of a girl in one of their rooms, that of Paul McCartney. We did, however, get the manager of the Beatle troupe to announce himself at Mr. McCartney's room and tell him that the girl would have to leave the room or we would have to force entry into the room. We told all members of the troop who were causing us a problem that they were in violation of a city ordinance, that of false hotel registration, where only the person registered in the room may reside there. We are accountable, of course, to all the citizens of Minneapolis, and we feel for the welfare and safety of their kids, even though they may be a little hysterical and they may go a little overboard for this type of thing. We know where our responsibility lies. We did remove several girls from the hotel. We removed a couple of them from a room that had been reserved for a dining room, and they were in bed in this room. Most of the kids were not too indignant upon being removed because they had accomplished their purpose in getting into the hotel.
The inspector was asked if he had had any trouble with McCartney himself.
No, sir, we did not. I did not speak to Mr. McCartney. I felt that he had a business manager here, and I felt it was his place to keep his product in tow.
Finally, Inspector Dwyer was asked if he was a Beatles fan.
No, sir, I hear the music around my house, but I'm not a Beatle fan. I could care about it not one bit myself personally. However, this does not mean that it is not popular music. As far as the Beatles' entourage, or the group of hangers-on and people who make their living off them are concerned, those that were around the hotel I have no use for, nor do I care if they ever return to Minneapolis, which they have threatened not to do. One of their group with a British accent told me that they would never come back to Minneapolis, and I remarked to him that if they did not come, it would be too soon for me.
In San Francisco this afternoon, 43,000 people witnessed one man attack another with a baseball bat. The assailant, all-star pitcher Juan Marichal of the San Francisco Giants, was eventually restrained by home plate umpire Shag Crawford. The victim, Los Angeles Dodger catcher John Roseboro, was led off the playing field with blood pouring onto his chest protector. Neither player returned to the game, and there were no arrests. Roseboro, who joined the Dodgers on a flight to New York this evening, was being observed for symptoms of brain concussion. The incident took place in the bottom of the third inning, when Marichal came to bat after forcing Maury Wills and Ron Fairley of the Dodgers to hit the deck with pitches close to their heads. On the second pitch from Sandy Koufax, Roseboro's return throw came close to Marichal's head. Suddenly, Marichal attacked. Koufax rushed in, narrowly avoiding the bat, as players from both teams joined the fray. Giants manager Herman Franks later said, quote, "Juan told me that Roseboro ticked him in the ear when he threw the ball back to Koufax," unquote. This claim was refuted by both Roseboro and Crawford. Dodger manager Walter Alston was furious, stating, quote, "Marichal just made up that story as far as I'm concerned. I don't think you want the comment I would give you about a character like that. I thought Willie Mays used the best judgment of any on the other side. He grabbed Roseboro and told him he was hurt. I was worried about Roseboro. I thought he lost an eye, but it was just blood in the eye," unquote. The Giants won the game 4-3, but Marichal's attack could alter the tight National League race. League President Warren Giles will study Crawford's report, and a lengthy suspension for San Francisco's ace pitcher is possible. Meanwhile, Roseboro is considering criminal assault charges against Marichal, although he has made no final decision. Asked about a just penalty, the Dodger catcher said, quote, "He and I in a room together for about 10 minutes. I have no love for that man. In fact, we're unfriendly, and I don't believe in turning the other cheek," unquote. Today's clash was just the latest eruption in baseball's fiercest rivalry. However, previous fights had been settled with fists. Tonight, not a single player, coach, or manager on either team could recall one player attacking another with a bat. Sports, right after this.
When you get in your car, what's the first thing you do? Put the key in the ignition, adjust the mirror, release the handbrake, and drive, right? Wrong. Dead wrong if you didn't include buckling your seatbelt as part of your routine. Here's why. According to the National Safety Council, 4 out of 5 accidents happen within 25 miles of home. So every time you get in your car, make it a habit. Always buckle your seatbelt.
At Wrigley Field Thursday, right-hander Jim Maloney of the Cincinnati Reds pitched a 10-inning no-hitter in the opener of a doubleheader, beating the Cubs 1-0 on Leo Cardenas' home run off Larry Jackson. The Cubs won the second game 5-4. Maloney struck out 12, walked 10, and threw 187 pitches. It was just the third extra inning no-hitter in Major League history, and the first since 1917. 2 months ago, Maloney suffered heartbreak when he took a no-hitter against the Mets into the 11th, only to lose when New York outfielder Johnny Lewis homered. But today, it was Cardenas who hit the foul pole for the winning run in the top of the 10th. In the bottom of the inning, Maloney walked the leadoff man, but then retired Billy Williams. The next man up was the great Ernie Banks.
Victimized by the strikeout pitch last time up, Ernie's 0 for 4. There have been only 3 putouts by Cincinnati outfielders in this game. Here's Ernie. Ground ball. Picked by Cardenas over to second out. Rose relays. The ball game is all over. Maloney's got a no-hitter.
Maloney was interviewed on the field.
Well, I lost one early in the year, 1-0 against the Mets, and I thought maybe I might be in the same predicament today if all Williams had to do was Banks hit one out, and there I am 1-0 again getting beat. But I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It's got to be. I wasn't real sharp today. I had a lot of made some good pitches when I had to, but when I had to come in there, they popped it up or something, and I had a lot of walks. But I wasn't real sharp as I was against the Mets. But I think this is the biggest game of my career right here.
In the National League standings, the Dodgers lead the Giants and the Braves by half a game, and the Reds by 2.5. In the American League, the Twins swept a doubleheader from the Tigers today and now hold a 6.5-game lead over the White Sox. And that, for this evening, completes our look at the latest news on this Sunday, August 22nd, 1965. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day tomorrow.
This has been your Evening Report, a roundup of the latest news with Joe Rubenstein.